listening to the Krooked Hearts Podcast. Welcome, everybody, guys and girls. Thanks for tuning in here. This is the fourth installment of the Krooked Hearts Podcast. I am Andy the Pie Deal. We do have Desi Jaramillo joining us today for this episode, and we go deep into the beginnings with her family band, kind of Partridge Family kind of band thing going on there, and all the way up to her accomplishments now as an instructor, private lessons that she does, vocal, piano, and she teaches music at a private school as well. And so we had a very interesting conversation. Join in here, tune in, learn something, cry, laugh, do all the things that make you feel inside, please. Thank you, Desi, for coming on to my podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So we're gonna get deep today. We're gonna get into some conversation. We're gonna talk about some music and all kinds of good stuff.
Okay.
First of all, introduce yourself. Tell us, what you do and who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Desi Jaramillo. Everybody around here calls me Desi. I actually, right now, I am a music teacher at a private school, and I teach 4th through 8th grade. And I also teach private voice and private piano lessons.
Awesome. Okay, and a little background history on what inspired you to get into the teaching world here.
Actually, it wasn't. I never had planned on ever teaching. That's a very long story going back a long time ago.
Give us a shortened version. We've got time.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
This is one of my favorite stories about my music is when I was very young, I took piano lessons from a little lady in my church.
Okay.
When it started when I was 5 years old. And I think about it now, and it kind of blows me away, but she only charged me $1 an hour.
Wow.
And I took from her for years. And I remember as a kid not being as appreciative of her. I didn't realize the sacrifice she was making. I do remember loving to play, but I remember now looking back, I remember the sacrifice and how much time she took with me, and I love her. I can't wait to meet her again someday.
Right.
And she will be a person that I wrap my arms around. Yeah. Yeah. Just because now at my age, I appreciate her. She really changed my whole life.
Yeah, you couldn't at the time, but in retrospect, 2020, hindsight.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I started playing my piano, and I had 5 brothers, and they all started instruments, drums, and I had a brother who started playing the accordion, and then my mother, when we were very young, I think I was probably 8 or 9 years old, she said, "I'd like to see you guys learn a few songs together." So we just kind of got together. I think we knew 3 songs. And I don't even remember what they are, but what the tunes were. And then a lady who was a friend of my mother's owned a dance studio, and she said, "Would you mind coming to my dance recital and just have the kids play a number in between?" And then it just started, and we were super young.
The spark was right there.
From that, somebody else has asked us to perform something else, and we got asked more and more and more. And then pretty soon, I think it was probably a year and a half, then my mother started saying, "My kids will come and play if you would just pay for our gas."
That's cool.
Yeah, so I don't know how many years that went on for. And then it just snowballed. And before we knew it, I was in high school. I had performed at every school function from elementary school to high school. Everybody knew us as, our band. Our last name was Muggleston.
Okay.
And they called us the Muggleston Family Band. Yeah. And then in high school, we kind of looked at each other and said, "Okay, we need to decide whether we're going to do this
This might be something.
This might be something. We need to either think about it or not do it, because my oldest brother was going to graduate from high school.
Okay.
So we left one summer, drove our van to LA, and literally walked into studios. And, you know, it was the 5 of us, and we just walked in, and they're like, can we help you?
Right.
And we said, hey, we're a band. We're here for the summer. We'll come in and set up and play for you. And some people smiled at us and, you know, gave us the cheerio.
Yeah.
And one agency said, oh, come on in and play for us. And we set up in their back room and played for them. And they booked us at a mall in a gazebo in Torrance, California.
That was the first gig.
That was our first big, like, you know, pro gig.
Yeah, yeah.
And we played every weekend, Saturdays, Sundays, and did like 3 or 4 shows a day.
Okay.
And that got to be huge. Now all these people are coming to see us.
Right.
More and more and more. A professional manager came and, you know, gave us a spill, and then an agency gave us a spill. So it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we got booked in Lake Tahoe.
Oh.
At Harvey.
My heart right there.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Tahoe boy. And at Harvey's.
Okay, yeah.
And that was the old Harvey's.
The old Harvey's wall banger.
The old Harvey's.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And
wait. Now, question really quick here. Were we doing covers, originals, a little bit of both? What was the...
We were doing covers at that time.
Okay, yeah.
So basically what we were, they called us a show band.
Okay.
So we all played instruments.
Right.
We all soloed and sang. Okay. We all danced.
Yeah.
So
this wasn't like a Partridge Family kind of thing.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was like.
What style of covers were you guys doing? I'm not trying to date it or anything, but I just want to. What rhythm and blues, or just kind of some rock stuff, or just some mellow?
You know what,
dancey stuff.
You know, Andy, kind of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of had to.
We did old. Audience. We did. Yeah. We had to. You know, we had to play for what appealed to our audience,
right.
And so it was. You know, anywhere from Earth, Wind, and Fire to Al Jolson.
Right.
You know, remember who Al Jolson is?
I recall the name. I'm not really familiar with his.
Yeah, well, that's because you're a young boy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He sang. He was the white singer who sang in blackface.
Okay.
And he sang, you know, old gospel-y, bluesy things. But he was super popular. And my parents helped us be so savvy on the kind of music that we were playing and what would appeal to different people.
Yeah.
So we knew all those old players.
That's great.
And we knew like old songs that, you know, old geezers would love. But we also played like Earth, Wind, and Fire was big at that time. And
the hip stuff and the old
we
stuff.
Played hip stuff and
older audiences. And
yes.
You could suck them all in.
We could suck them all in. That was the mantra, suck them in.
Yeah.
So, you know, Harvey's, because we were underage.
Right.
They hired us for 1 week.
Okay.
And they said, we'll give you 1 week, and if we like you, then we'll keep you for 2 more weeks. And after our first day, they hired us for the 2 extra weeks.
Cool.
So
tell me about that really quick, because I'm familiar with the Tahoe Casino, Harvey's area.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys were set up like where the slot machines are on a stage somewhere?
Oh.
Where they have a room usually they got different stage setups throughout the place. So just paint me a picture of what that was like for you guys.
I wish I had a picture because you would get a kick out of it. It was the old Harvey's. You know, Harvey's is new. But the old Harvey's, so here's the casino laid out. Then there's a big bar.
Okay.
And then right above the bar is the little stage.
Yeah.
And it was really too small for us. We just squished our instruments back as far as we could. And then because we were underage, we'd go down these creepy old back stairs into this little...
They'd sneak you in through the back.
Dirty old dressing room down there.
No.
Yeah. So,
that's cool.
yeah, so and then we'd have to sit down there for, 2 hours in between, come up, play a show, go back downstairs. It was a trip.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
So that lasted for what? You said 3 weeks?
That lasted for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then, honestly, I could just go on and on and on and tell you story after story of, we started playing Vegas, started playing Reno, started playing, in the summers, we had an agent contact us and ask if we would like to do fairs and festivals.
Okay.
And, compared to being in casinos and clubs, that was a huge breath of fresh air for us.
Outdoor event.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And we got very popular in that genre of
very cool.
Yeah, venue. So
what were you particular doing in this band? Singing?
So I played keyboards.
Okay.
I played keyboards. I also could, if my brother, who's a drummer, wanted to go out front and sing a solo, I could go on the drums.
Okay.
We
can keep a beat.
Yes, I can. I haven't done it for a while, so don't ask me to go over there and play those.
Yeah.
But we just kind of switched off and did that.
But kind of thing. Everyone switch up instruments.
Yes.
That keeps it.
When we were
wandering.
Yes, it was.
That's
and
cool.
And I mean, it got so big. Like I have a brother who played guitar. Mm-hmm. He could jump on a tramp and do a backflip with his guitar on.
Wow, that's showmanship right there.
Oh yeah, we were very showy, and we traveled around to those fairs and festivals, and we were very, very successful.
That's cool.
Yep. I mean, we were supporting 18 of us.
So at this point, past Reno, and now we're doing these outdoor. Mm-hmm. How many of us have graduated out of school, and this is like a family thing that we're doing, that we're out of school now? Is this full?
Yes, my two younger brothers were were still in school.
Right.
But from the time we left and we took correspondence courses that first year we left our home and came to LA, and then the Board of Education said, hey, we're going to give you some schoolwork to do during the year, and let's give that a test and see how it goes.
It's like these child actors that go on these movies,
yes.
And they have and do their stuff and still do their thing, and
and California was used to it, but Utah, where we were from,
right.
They were not used to it. They had never had anyone do this before.
Okay.
And so we were kind of the testers for them, and then at the end of the year we had to come back and be tested.
Right, yeah.
And every single year we were ahead of where we should have been, because we were studying history and we were traveling back east, and my parents made a big effort to go see what we were studying or do what we,
it sticks with you. You saw it.
It stuck with us. It stuck with us.
Me and Annie, my wife, we talk about that all the time, that when we have our kids and they get old enough, we love traveling. Yeah. And so in that traveling aspect of, on our honeymoon, we went and we saw so many national parks and different things. And on our way, she'd be looking on the iPad saying, oh, this historical landmark is right there. And this and some of them we were able to stop and look. But some of them we just read about and passed by it on the highway going, that's where Buffalo Bill.
That's right.
That's where, this
That's
and that.
Right.
And we said, we got to do this when we have kids.
Yeah.
Because the history of all that stuff will stick in their brain if they see it. We'll do road trips when we have kids, and that way maybe this coming year for 4th grade, they got to study this thing. We'll do a road trip that year to go see that.
So smart.
And that will make it stick, because I never had much interest, but
no,
if my parents would have did something like that would have made it stick.
Exactly, because book learning is cool and it's for some kids, but for majority of people, when you are literally looking at what you're reading about,
Yeah.
And
so
and
you had that.
We had that.
That is so awesome.
And we had each other. We had the older kids helping the younger kids with
sponge off each other about it.
Yes, and we were practicing together every single day. We were best friends.
Right, the camaraderie of that.
So when you imagine this family, being stuck in a rut. No, we weren't. We were loving our life.
Dynamic for sure.
And and we would travel, get out, set up all of our stuff, run back to our motorhome, get all primped up for a 45-minute show. Yeah. And, that 45 minutes was worth everything we went through.
Totally.
Before that. Yeah. So, it has to be something you really love, but you wouldn't go do this unless it was something you loved.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then from there it just got bigger and bigger, and we started actually from there, because we worked in Tahoe and Vegas, then the showroom started asking us to front act some big people.
That's cool.
And we did a lot of shows with probably one of my favorite human beings in the world, and that was Red Skelton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And young kids don't know him.
Oh, heck no, they don't.
Which is really a shame.
Yeah, it is.
But he was an amazing human being. And when the agency booked us with him, a lot of other acts that had performed with him that were our friends said he's really tough.
Okay.
Like you have to be really good.
He's from the old school generation.
He's from the
right.
He's so old school, and he's such a perfectionist.
Totally.
And they said, we played with him once, and then we never got to perform with him again. Well, I don't know what it was, but he ended up loving us.
He took you under his wing.
And he was incredible.
What an honor.
It was an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there's one name.
At that time, Kenny Rogers and Crystal Gale and Barbara Mandrell, those are the country people. Yeah. Kenny Loggins. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I should have brought a book so I could tell you.
Kenny Loggins, Kenny Rogers, as my father-in-law would say when we go to Lake Powell.
Yeah.
The three Kennys. All you need is Kenny G in there, and then you got the three Kennys.
Well, we did shows with Kenny G too.
Hey, there it is. Desi, you got the three Kennys in there. Awesome.
Yeah, they were great experiences for us, and of course, we were young and coming up, and the big agencies took us under their wing, and they were good to us.
Right.
Back
when people could actually make money doing that. Not a lot.
We did well.
Good.
We did well. We did as good as we could. With the 18 of us. Later on in those times, I remember in the years of performing with Red Skelton was the years I got married. Okay. And my older brother was married.
Right.
And then my older brother had children. We were on the road. I had my first two. I would perform till I was 2 weeks ready to have a baby, and went back 3 weeks after I had a baby, and we're back out on the road, and that was our whole life.
Right.
So it was great times.
Yeah.
Great times.
So everyone in the band played instruments, or?
Everyone played instruments, and for the first, I don't know how many years, for the first quite a few years, I was the only one who sang. Okay. And then they all started singing, and they all have incredible voices. So everybody's so talented.
Harmonies and everything.
Yes.
This is from the generation of singing, dancing,
everything.
Like the Rat Pack. They got
That's right.
It all.
That's right.
How it was back then.
You had to do it all.
If you want to set yourself away from the pack,
right?
You had to be able to do it all.
That's right.
Costume changes.
That's right.
And all that stuff.
Oh, we had incredible costumes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, now now you can just kind of go up in whatever you want.
Sensation and one-hit wonder, and you still or something. But
that's right.
Back then, you had to have skills, man. You had to do it all. You had to.
You had to be a well-rounded person on that stage, or it wasn't that fun to watch.
Right.
So.
And you weren't going to get hired.
That's right.
You had to have it.
That's right.
You had to bring it.
That's right. And, I remember those years when it started infiltrating just being a band.
Yeah.
And more simple. And then they would come in and undercut us money, say to the festival, we'll play a lot cheaper. And, but we were putting so much effort and that into it.
Putting on a real show.
We were.
Entertaining show.
We were putting on a show. Yeah.
Right.
So, wow, great years. It was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Right.
Yeah. And then I, you know, we did all those years of performing with those big people, and it was a great learning lesson. Then there came the time when we all had more children,
Family
and
started to kick in.
Family started to kick in, and we had a couple of children in the family. A couple of my brothers had children that were not well.
Okay.
And
had to take a little more time out to.
we had to take a little more time out. And
so was there like a discussion that had to happen at some point, or we were or did it just kind of slowly fade?
There were a lot of discussions. You know, there were a lot of discussions and a lot of, you know, we were scared.
Yeah.
We were scared because that's, you know, we left as children. That was our whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, I wouldn't change it at all. I wouldn't change a year of it. But, you know, we had to make some decisions of what we were going to do. And we kind of cut down, and it took about 3 years for us just to not travel on the road anymore. Mm-hmm. It was sad.
Yeah.
It was really, really tough on our family.
Right.
I struggled for probably 2 or 3 years after that, and then I had a girl call me, and she said, "Would you teach me voice lessons?" And I said, I've never taught anything like that. I know how to do it, and I did take from some really incredible people,
right.
But I don't know how to teach other people.
How do I convey what I learned to someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And it probably took about 6 months, and I said, you know what, I'm unhappy.
Right.
I'm unhappy because my life was just this big, huge thing.
Right.
And so I called her and I said, you know, why don't you come and I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
I've been doing it ever since.
That was the stepping stone.
That was the stepping stone.
Leap of faith right there.
I knew more than I thought. And I also didn't think I could be a good teacher. Mm-hmm. And the final result is that I love those kids.
Yeah.
I've loved every kid that I've ever taught, or adult, or you know, it's been fulfilling. Right. You know, they walk out of my house, and I feel like I contributed to somebody.
Yeah.
I contributed to myself. Mm-hmm. I contributed to society. I tried to make somebody's life better.
Different elements that all play into the one action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I was hooked.
Right. Well, really quick, let's go back into, just for a moment, we're not going to dwell on it, but I really like the fact, and I want to make it a focus as part of this podcast, is to not dwell on it, but like I say, talk about that. You talked about those 2 years where you sound like you're maybe kind of lost and kind of finding yourself and all that. There is a journey that happens with failure, false starts and all these things that happen, whereas that's what molds and is part of the journey that leads to success in our lives.
Yes.
Anyone, no matter what it is. I mean, no matter the journey, but
I live by that.
Some people want to like gloss over the hardship and just talk about and have this polished version of themselves. And I like to just kind of recognize and salute it a little bit for a second, you know, and just know that there's always these things that we go into, and then these things don't pan out, and then these things turn into something else, and there's this kind of weaving and bobbing and kind of thing that happens in life where it truly leads to what becomes of who we are and what we do. And it could be you're still 80 years old and that's still happening. I mean, we're always evolving, and we're always changing, for sure. And we're always kind of learning. But tell me about like that little process in between. You had this thing going. It was the kind of who you were defined yourself by, this person that was in this family band and this thing. And then we started to get older, and we started to grow up, and we had families and kids and all these things. And then it was kind of like, man, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to go? Tell me a little bit about that process to lead you towards the phone call that you finally ended up eventually taking and saying, I'm going to do this.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because this is a really beautiful thing that I live by now. Through that experience and being so lost there and not knowing who I am and putting myself out there again.
Yeah.
And, you know, not quite believing in myself, you find yourself. Do you get it what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
to the bottom to rise at the top.
It takes you to get to the bottom. And then, you know, a whole new world opens up for you. And you remember that statement I said where, you know, that was a whole lifetime ago?
Yeah.
Because I became a different person.
Mm-hmm. It truly was a life. It was a whole different life.
A whole different life. I feel like I was kind of reincarnated.
Yeah.
And it was because I discovered things about myself that if I would have stayed there,
Yeah.
I would have never discovered that I had this love for what I do now.
There's a lot of youthful person identity where you transition to adulthood and you have to,
Yes.
it's like two different people. You just have this thing that you were and then you transform. It's the next chapter, it's the next thing. So that's kind of...
It's fun because now because I am with so many teenage kids,
Yeah.
I get to tell them this. I get to tell them, you're gonna go through bad times. You're gonna hit a plateau and you're gonna be lost, you're gonna be lonely, you're gonna be whatever. I promise, if you stick to it and you just keep believing in yourself and keep pushing forward, all of a sudden the clouds are gonna open for you.
Right.
And you're going to find out who you really, really are. And that's what happened to me. And I think to all of us in that band, you know, we've become different people.
You're right.
I feel like we were great then.
Yeah.
Together. But you know, we were together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really know who we were personally.
Right.
So now...
He was together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yet know even more. Now, not saying that changed me just that.
Yeah.
I've had many trials since then.
Yeah.
That has kept changing me, like you said, till you're 80 years old.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your
identity is never what it is.
Nope.
It's always going to shift and change, you know.
Yeah. And you know that...
For the better. Hopefully we keep evolving. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean...
You know when you're a kid and somebody says, I wish I was as young as you and know what I know now? Don't you get that?
If I only knew what I know now, but as a younger version of myself, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I totally get that saying now, yeah. So even my husband that I was married to for 32 years passed away 4 years ago, and that was a life change for me too.
Big time.
I was scared to death. Scared of what I was going to do with myself, scared of being alone.
Right.
Scared that I wasn't going to be a part of that, losing my friends, losing my identity as a married woman,
right.
as, you're even your confidence, you lose your confidence.
Yeah.
And it took me not very long, and I'm like, I've done hard things before. I can do this again.
Right.
And I made a pact with myself that I was going to choose to be happy.
Not dwell, but rise.
Choose to be happy, because life is so simple, Andy.
Right.
You really only have two choices.
Yeah.
You can either go left or you can go right.
Right.
You can't even stay on that straight line because that's not even a decision.
Mm-mm.
But going left or going right is your two choices.
Yeah.
And I chose to go right.
Yeah.
And I chose to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's kind of similar, staying stuck in the past or focusing on the future.
Yes.
Left or right. You can only go one way or the other.
That's right. And I don't want to, I do not want to trivialize what happened, because I know so many people, now that I'm a widow, I know so many people that are in that same boat, so many women and men. And I don't want to trivialize it.
Right.
I want you to know it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
To choose to be happy.
Right.
And I think back to when the band stopped. And, I was in my 30s. when that band stopped. I had done it since I was 9 years old. So that was a great loss to me.
Yeah.
And then this other loss.
Childhood, mid-adulthood to, teenage, all the way into adulthood. That's the formative years.
Yes.
That's the, identity building years. Those are all those things.
Yep.
I mean, I can't even imagine. They say, well, your brain doesn't fully form until you're in like mid-30s or something like that.
I'm sure that was true about mine, yeah.
So, I mean, all those years right there was what you were into your identity being.
Right.
Those years.
That's right.
And then
it's those times that, you do lose your identity. Mm-hmm. But, I have to say, and I tell people this all the time, I'm happier right now than I've ever been. It's the first time in my life I really can look at myself and say, I love you, man. You're awesome. And I would never have said that in my whole life. If I can literally look in the mirror at myself and say, you have been so awesome. Like, you would just keep going, man. And it gives me hope, and it gives me happiness, and it gives me peace. And in that, then with all these kids that I work with and all these people that I get to work with constantly,
yeah,
I get to share my love with them because I have it.
This right here, what you've just said, pure inspiration right there. I mean, for me, for you, but for everyone that will ever hear this, that is the greatest. That's so
it's
great
the greatest.
right there. I mean, embracing that and just, being able to turn things around and find positivity in some things that everyone goes through in life, all the negative twists and turns, all the roadblocks, and being able to learn from it, zigzag, move left, move right, do what you gotta do, forward.
Right.
One foot in front of the other. Learn from it and keep going.
Yeah. And you're right. Nobody sits us down when we're little kids and says, listen, honey, this is going to happen to you, this is going to happen to you, this is going to happen to you. Just like I always tell young mothers, my daughter-in-laws, young girls that I meet with new babies, your wife, I tell them all the time, this is a hard time for you, but don't be hard on yourself, because nobody taught us to be professional parents.
There's no handbook.
There's no handbook. Nobody taught us to be a professional human being.
Different, yeah, for sure, yeah. It's the human experience is what they call it, I believe.
And we grow up with the sense that everything is supposed to go right all the time, and yet we don't understand that if we don't go through the bad times, we're never going to grow. Yeah. We're never going to be smarter, wiser, kinder, gentler. We're never going to be those things if we don't go through hard times. Yeah. And yes, it stinks. Yeah. But yes, there is a light at the end of the rainbow. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there is truly a yin and yang. You have to have the light.
Yes, you do.
With the dark. And the dark times lead so greatly and profoundly to that light. You won't appreciate any light in your life ever unless you go through something that's dark.
That's
just the way it is.
That's right.
As you said, as children, no one ever, school, church, whatever, no one really, I feel like, really breaks it in a simple form to let you know, hey,
Nobody tells you.
You just think you just go through this thing, but no one really sits you down and says, hey, to appreciate that any dark, any rough, any negative will finally turn so that you will be able to actually appreciate the good.
Right.
The light, those awesome things that happen. If you live in a bubble your whole life and everything's just so good, when good things happen, you just feel it comes to you, and that's just expected, and that you don't have joy in that.
Exactly, you don't appreciate it as much. Yeah. Right. Right.
If you have that bad, to contrast that and be able to see it for what it is, it's huge. That's a huge factor to be able to be the human experience. As we said, to be able to really embrace that and be appreciative and be, oh man, this is great. This is a world apart from that bad thing that was going on. Now I'm on top, and I'm sure I'll be back down again, and then I'll be back on top. But I really right now want to be appreciative and embrace this and be grateful. grateful.
Oh, gratitude.
You know?
Gratitude is the key word.
Yeah.
Gratitude is the key word.
I never had gratitude until I got into these later years of my life here.
Isn't that a shame?
I know.
Yeah, but me too.
I didn't focus on it. There was no one to point it out to me.
Nope.
My wife is the one that turned me on to
Good for
the
her.
world of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to sound like some weird hippie or anything, but I mean,
no.
I didn't have it. I couldn't embrace that.
I didn't either.
She was able to. I always see my dad. Here's my dad. My dad's like one of these half-empty kind of people,
yeah.
you know, where my last name is Deal, and my dad would always say, "It's the Deal luck." You know, when everything would go bad, oh, it's the Deal luck. You know, and so I met Annie, and for years when bad things would happen, I'd say, "It's the Deal luck, Annie. It's just the way it is. It's just the Deal luck." You know, and after good things started to happen, she would stop me in my tracks and say, "It's not. There's no Deal luck involved with that."
That's right.
So you need to. There was a Jonesy's Jukebox. This was a perfect example. Have you heard that show, Jonesy's Jukebox?
Nuh-uh.
Steve Jones, he's a guitar player for the Sex Pistols. He's on a radio station. He has his own show. I called in randomly. I was going to my parents' house. I heard a U2 song that said, "Be caller number 5." I pulled over. I've never, ever, ever called into a radio station. Not once. My gut instinct said, pull over. They said the number I called. I was caller number 5.
Are you kidding? That's so cool.
This was just like 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
First time ever. And this was the enlightenment. This was the turn for me. This was one of those things that was so in my face and so abundant that I could not deny it. And Annie was like, there was no Deal luck in your life. That was a positive, great, awesome, wonderful thing that happened to you.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with any luck. It was that you're a good person and that a good thing happened to you. And so I never ever want to hear you say that there's Deal luck involved ever again, because this wonderful thing happened to you and that was really good. And that's the flip side of that coin for you. You know, she's a really good person to always point out the flip side of things to me when I want to get negative. She'll show me the positive.
That's good.
And that was one of those things. And
she's a good partner.
She kept chipping away.
She's a good partner.
Over all these years now being with her, that I've been turned. I now can
good for her.
Acknowledge positivity and embrace it and focus on it, as opposed to how I was raised as a kid was just like this negative spin on things, where now I see that the glass is half full.
Instead of half empty.
It's full.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's just a perfect example. You know, the old dog can learn new tricks. It's so true. I don't want anyone to ever say that they can't, because they can. I'm chiseling away at my dad till this day, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I'm an example. Hey, it can happen.
Trust me, he notices.
Yeah. So
he knows.
It's one of those things. It's just you make a choice.
Yes.
It's perception. You make a choice. You can choose to focus on this thing, or you can choose to focus on the other.
And can I tell you, there is a payoff to making those choices.
Right.
There is a payoff, because you've kind of let yourself out of a prison.
Yeah. True.
You've kind of opened up those bars, opened up your world, and now you can see the whole big, beautiful world around you.
Yeah.
You've let yourself out of this little box.
Yeah.
And there is a payoff. I had a couple of things that were very poignant for me the last couple of years. My oldest son, I got a phone call from him on a Sunday afternoon, and he said, Mom, he goes, I just had to call you because he said, I was sitting in church and they were talking about happiness and what we do to strive for happiness. And people were saying, well, what do you do when this happens? And how are you happy when this happens? And how are you happy when you look around the world and there's so much crud going on? And he goes, I raised my hand and I said, I just feel impelled to tell you that nothing worse has happened to a human being my mother's been through so much the last couple of years, and I have watched her. And one thing I've watched her do is make a choice to be happy. And he goes, I'm calling you to tell you that one act you have done has made a difference in my life. And that was a payoff for me. That was a payoff for me.
Yeah.
And then I have a boss who owns the school that I work at, and at a party she hugged me and she whispered in my ear that I'm so proud of you. She said, you always have a smile on your face. Through everything you've been through,
Right.
you have a smile on your face, and I'm proud of you. Those little things,
Those choices.
those little things mean the world to me.
Yeah.
There's my payoff right there.
Right.
That
Yeah.
other people notice how hard I'm trying.
Yeah.
You know, and in that, I believe we as human beings can all be an example to other people.
Yeah. True.
You know?
True. I believe that as well. Yeah.
So your wife is a good partner in pointing out those positive aspects of your life.
Oh, it's a fight. She's trying trust me, it's lots of work on her end to do it. But she's chipped away at that, and I've made choices, I've made changes, I definitely
That's good.
would not be the man I am today without her. So,
Because, sometimes people outside see us better than we see ourselves.
we
Right?
go through some things sometimes that bring us down that, we could dwell on those.
Yep.
We really could.
Yep.
And it could bring us down. And plenty of other people do choose to.
Yes.
And look how negative they are. And look how horrible their life is. And look
It doesn't benefit them.
it doesn't, And yeah, I mean, granted, it's been trials and tribulations to get to it, but that's the path.
That's
the
right.
path, and you can't enjoy the good now. I can't enjoy me making those changes knowing that I had the bad. I made those choices in the past to dwell on certain things that I try not to now.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
you can reel in it a little bit more easily and a little bit more gracefully.
And we also, one thing that human beings do is we kind of beat ourselves up for our past too.
Yeah.
And we can't do that.
Right.
We can't do that because, just like nobody told us this is going to happen to you, nobody told us how to handle these things, So we can't beat ourselves up. We got to look at it and go, I'm grateful that happened to me. Gratitude, there's that gratitude word again. I'm grateful that it happened to me so that I can be where I am now.
I have another great Annie quote would be just a simple, whatever. Something happens, oh man, I'm so stupid, I forgot my thing. And she stops me and she says, you can't say that about yourself. You would never let anyone else talk to you that way. So why do you talk to yourself that way? You don't say you're stupid. You would, if your best friend told you you're stupid, you get mad at them and you say, hey, don't talk to me that way.
Isn't that...
Whatever. And she goes, you're harder on yourself than you were on anybody else. She said, don't you dare talk to yourself that way. And it's like, she's so right. And now I say that to my friends and stuff when they say, I'm like, hey, don't talk to yourself that way.
I'm going to put a little zinger in here for you that's going to affect you. But would you want any one of your children to say that about themselves?
No. Yeah, it's true.
And so,
you talk positive. You want them to have the courage to be strong.
So we can't say that about ourselves because
set that example.
We can't set that example for them.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Now that I have kids, that does take a whole other side of everything else right there. But
it does.
Being an adult, man, we got to make all these changes. We got to focus on all these right choices and all these things,
which is better for us.
It is
better for us.
Totally is.
Makes us more aware of what's going on around us.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now with music, because the main gist of this podcast is music, and I like getting into all the juiciness, so that was good. I also want to know, and I want to promote a little bit of what you do now. You have great things that are being said all around from what I hear, and
that's so nice.
I know that, you've dedicated a lot of time to it.
I have.
And you've really created a name for yourself, from starting from nothing and rising through the ashes to being this entity that you are now. So let our listeners know kind of what you do now and what
I have a lot of voice students that come to my home, which is a blessing, man. When they come through that door, it just lights up the house. there are a lot of kids auditioning for things, and I have people that I've had students. I have people that are older that audition for shows, and they come to me. I play for them. We make tapes of their songs, just record on their phone so that they can practice. I'll go over it with them. I'll give them little hinters. But I have about 28 private students right now that I teach voice to, and then I have some piano students too. I kind of started that because my voice students want to learn how to play the piano.
You go hand in hand. Yeah.
And so it's super fun to teach them voice and piano, one right after another. That's really great. I love it. They're all over town working, doing shows, doing auditions in school things. Different theaters around town, and
community stuff, school stuff.
Yes,
all the difference.
And one of my students finally I've judged a lot. I go around town and judge for all kinds of events.
Okay.
And
I did not know actually.
Yes, I do. I do a lot. And this last year, I had decided not to do the Rotary Club. Judge for the Rotary Club competition because two of my girls joined or auditioned for this. Okay. So I said, I can't be a judge and judging my own students.
I'm double dipping. I can't do that.
Exactly. But I knew what they needed to do to be prepared for this. So one of my students, Brienne, she won here in Temecula, and then they go do a Southern California big competition. She sang against 16 other singers, and the judges were legit guys, and she won first place.
Oh, that's great.
And so that doesn't just build Brienne, it builds me too.
Yeah.
Because it makes me know I'm doing the right thing for them.
And I got to be part of one of your successes. That was totally awesome. I mean, I had a small little hand in it, but I got to feel it, and all your work and all your accomplishment as far as the practicing and the orchestrating and all your hands-on. I mean, just to throw it out there, the one thing I noticed the difference was all these acts that were into this stake performance thing. Mm-hmm. They all had pre-programmed music.
Yes.
You were the only one that provided live piano with guitar and stuff and different aspects of that I feel like made a really big difference.
Huge difference. I knew that because I knew that the sound system they had, they didn't have an adequate sound system to get all the singing and all and I felt like recorded music, which in all those shows was going to cover up the kids.
Right.
And so I decided, which is my favorite thing to do, was to play for them. And I had a drum box and I had a little guitar player.
Yeah. The acoustics of real instruments, they convey.
Yes.
And those voices on top of that not only convey, but you were able to really showcase more than the other groups the vocals.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have this thing about you that you know what you're doing. You've done it long enough. And the one thing I noticed as well on top of that was these other groups had a lot of singular voices that they chose. That was the good singer that they wanted. She sings good, so we're going to let her sing. You did a unity thing. You had all of them singing, and that really conveyed where it was just these big voices, these big things that were happening. That everyone was involved, and it connected with the audience that much more for them to hear these, real instruments being played with these many voices collaborating together and really creating this whole soundscape that was lacking on every other performance.
One thing,
you made that judgment call.
Yeah, I did make that judgment call, and sometimes it's tough. So, we had the stage down in front, like the platforms down in front. We had the stage, so every other act had the main. They had like the group up behind on the big stage, and then they had the main actors down in front, and I decided to do it backwards.
Right.
And I told them, I said, my village people right now, you're going to make or break this show.
Right.
You guys are it. You're not one of those main characters, you don't think, but you are the main characters. They won they won the award for the most outstanding performance. My village people.
Yeah, right.
And that was a judgment call on my, then we won the music award, which was also a judgment call for me,
Yeah.
So, but one thing, I believe in these kids.
Yeah.
And people tell me all the time, how can you work with those teenagers? You know why? Well, one thing, I'm kind of down on their level. I get them. But the other thing is I believe in them. They can do amazing things.
Right.
And you just have to believe they can do amazing things.
Right.
Even when they say I can't do it, you're like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. I know you can.
Yeah.
And
I believe in you. That statement rings so true because of the trials and tribulations of the main guy that was going to bounce out. And then last minute, got talked back into it. And I know that was a huge hand on your part. And that's a perfect example of what you're talking about. He was, blah, 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 all these reasons. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I'm not,
Yep.
And he showed up and he, last minute style, stepped up to the plate. And it worked out great.
And I'm 5'2". This kid is, 6'4" or something like that.
That was your belief in him.
I did. I just stood out in the parking lot and I looked straight up his face and I grabbed his arms. And he could have just stepped on me. He's a big kid.
Right.
And I just looked at him and I said, I believe in you.
Yeah.
With all my heart.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this show without you. With all my heart, you can do this.
Yeah. That's a life lesson because any time in your life, especially at that age, having someone say they believe in you is bigger than anyone could ever know.
Yep.
I mean, I can relate to that in my, teenage years and stuff and being in a band and stuff and having, I was in this band that was playing like Jimi Hendrix and stuff in junior high and like high school. And, there was these bands that were playing like modern stuff, but they would be like my parents' friends who could recognize that he's playing stuff that's like not what he's not playing the modern stuff. He's playing like the old stuff that's like harder to play. He's got a spirit about him. And just hearing, I didn't hear it much from my parents, but I did hear there was like a neighbor and there was a couple other like adult figures that just believed in me like more than I ever believed in myself. And that really boosted it. That really just was like, man, if this person thinks that about me, then it must be really true.
It's true.
Like it gave me that push to keep going. It gave me that push to just be like, let's stick with this. Let's keep moving forward. And, and maybe I guess I do have something.
If they say I do, I do, then...
You can't believe it. You can't be the only one that believes in yourself. The more you hear it from others, especially adult figures, that reinforces it big time. And to have somebody such as yourself, a level of musicality that you are, to say that, I'm sure that meant the world to him. He was able to step up and rise.
He did too, didn't he?
You gave him that.
He did.
That coach speech that he needed to hear at the right time, at the right moment, to push forward and go. Okay,
and I
could go left, or I could go right.
That's right. And exactly, left or right.
And he did it.
Yeah.
You pushed. You gave him the push.
I gave him the push, and he, I just looked up and I said, "Are you going to do this for me?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yes, I will, Desi."
Right.
I will. And I go, "You promised me." And he goes, "I promise you."
Right.
And then he was on it the rest of the time, Yeah, I appreciated you coming doing the sound for us for that, because
it was fun.
Yeah. Because it was a freebie.
Yeah.
You did it for free, but it was for these kids.
Well, it was an experience for them, experience for me, experience for you. It was all collaborative thing, so it was all really good.
That's good.
So tell me a little bit more about kind of what you get out of, you touched on it before, about having the students walk through your door and the enlightenment and the happy feeling and that joy that comes into teaching these and spreading that to society, to the kids, to yourself, all those factors that touch in. Elaborate a little bit more on that for me. People, it's inspiring.
Something about music, and you'll know what I mean, but something about music is that it's so deep. It's like inside you.
Totally.
It's not something you do. It's not like an outside job that you're just physically doing.
Something you are.
It's something you are.
Right.
And when someone comes to you for voice lessons, you cannot just be the voice teacher.
Yeah.
You have to be their friend.
Yeah. There's a lot of facade to break through.
A lot.
Guard has to be let down, and vulnerability has to be put out there huge to be able to get over all that.
That's right.
And then that's get real here.
Because the scariest thing to human beings is public speaking, and singing is public speaking.
Totally.
And so you have to break down those barriers, like you said, and you have to have a relationship with them so deeply that they will believe you when you say, honey, that doesn't really sound good the way you're doing that. Can we change that? Yeah. And they'll believe you.
Right.
So what happens with that too is that they'll come to you and like, I had such a bad day today. I'm like, what happened? And then we talk about it, and then we start singing the song, and now they're in this emotional.
Use that.
And then you use that emotion in the song, and I'm like, don't ever sing that song any different. You put your whole life and what's happening to you right now into that song, and that's what people want.
Right.
That's the difference between being a pro or just being a singer.
Yeah.
Is that you can put your emotions into those songs.
Yeah.
And so that's the, do you know how much that feeds my soul?
Right. Yeah.
To know that these people, that I'm wanted and that I'm needed. So for me, from my aspect, from their aspect, I think it's that they know I care for them and love them. For society, now they're going out there a more whole person and ready to share their craft. And I don't know one human being on the face of the earth that does not love music. Everyone's touched by it in some way.
In some way.
In some way.
More than others, let's be honest.
Some more than others.
Some people are just more focused on other things, and whatever. But I relate more to the ones that because they can. It's relatable, you know. And
it's relatable.
They can be touched. They can open that part of their inner self to be able to have that.
And through my lifetime, Andy, I've been able to touch people with my music that normally probably wouldn't be.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I'm sure you can break through with some.
You can break through
some type of facade, and you're like, I'm gonna get you, and it's gonna be through music, and then you can for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if they walk through my front door, it fills my home with joy.
Totally.
It fills my home with music, and they come one right after another, and by the end of the day, I'm not exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, I'm playing music with people all day long. Who could ask for a better job than that?
Right. Yeah.
And then I do teach middle school. I teach middle school, and I do drama, and I do a big musical with them, which is very stressful.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that when the performance goes, it's the best thing you've ever done in your whole life for them and for me,
Yeah. It all comes around full circle here, all the hard work.
Yep, it does. Yeah, I get a lot of joy from it, and I feel like my students get a lot of joy, and I feel like their parents, their families, their friends.
We're touching some hearts here. We're reaching out. We're getting some people.
Well, in music, if you don't do that, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that you're going to go anywhere.
Yeah. It's like the artist that sits in the room and plays just to themselves.
Exactly.
It's great. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yes.
And if it's just good for your soul, that's one thing.
That's right.
But imagine touching so many other hearts. Imagine being able to reach the masses with that. It's only going to build you and make you feel stronger about it.
Yeah. And yet, what you just said, I have a son who has a master's degree in composition.
Okay.
He writes for symphonies.
Okay.
Which is, a little bit above my head.
Yeah, right.
Because
most.
I'll pull out, and most people,
Yeah.
I'll pull out pieces of music, and he's analyzed it at the bottom, which I'm looking at it saying, what the heck is this? He's brilliant. He's going to go get his doctor's degree. And I tell him all the time, yes, because he can walk in the room and say, Mom, you're not playing that right. And I'll say, yeah, but I have a little more savvy than you. So that's kind of fun. He's He's really into it. He's brilliant, and it's fun. And I have learned from him,
right,
too.
Well, that's part of the life lessons, is learning the learning that we.
But I tell him all the time, you have to get out there and you have to do, share.
Yeah.
What you have. Right. You have to share what you have. That's where your joy comes in, especially in music, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Totally.
Anyway, fun.
Yeah.
Life is fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it has its ups and downs.
Yes, it does.
There's lots of fun in here. There's lots of heartbreak.
I prefer just to say fun now all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I've come out of where I said, but I have my moments where I kind of can. Well, I can get down on myself, and I can, you know.
Yes.
So,
and trust me, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
That's a human nature, I think, you know.
Yeah.
But we learn as we go how to try to balance it all, you know. I mean, that's really like finding the balance is really like the tougher thing, I think. So
it is. It's tough for everybody to find that balance, but trust me, if you work hard at it and you know, I talk to myself all the time.
Don't we all?
I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you feeling this way? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Look at everything that you have and everything. You have people coming all day today. It's going to be great. And,
right.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. And my God is so good to me. You know, He has protected me and guided me through everything I've been through.
Right.
And I look up to him. You know, a lot of times we as human beings don't know what to do for each other, but he seems to always know.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. There's always that to fall back on at the very least, to have that reassurance that we have something.
Yep.
We got somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be there for us.
That's right. That's right. That's
no matter what. You know? Yeah. So, well, I think this has been really good. I really enjoyed all of our stories that we were able to share with each other today. It's been very enlightening.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Sure. Oh, yeah, good.
Definitely. You have a wonderful story, and I feel like people will really be interested in hearing some of our ickiness and all of our goodness as well. You know, the balance of it all, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, that's right.
All of it, you know. And so I was very excited that you were able to say, heck yeah, let's do
my
this.
gosh, I appreciate it so much. I appreciate it so much because I do have a great life, and I have had a great life, and you know, it's fun. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's always good to share with everybody, and so we will promote a little bit of what is going on in the future as we come to our broadcasting and whatnot of the podcast. But I just wanted to thank you personally for coming out today, and we appreciate all your earnest stories that you've been able to share with everyone today.
Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that was Miss Desi, and we had a great time sitting down talking to her about her humble beginnings to her most recent endeavors, everything in between. It was great to sit down and chat. I did have the fortunate experience to work with her personally. I did do sound for a road show that she was involved with. Her group did have live instrumentation with piano and instruments. The other groups did do backing tracks, so it was definitely a different experience for her group to have the live choir aspect of the singing with the instruments. The other groups did not have that, so it set her apart for sure. And I will say that they did take first place. Now, whether that had anything to do with me doing sound, could be, maybe not. Well, anyway, we're going to go ahead and promote a little bit on her, what she's been working on lately, working on her own personal demos that she's been doing. She has 9 songs in the can that are pretty much finished, wrapped up, and done. She's just recorded her 10th. Mostly original gospel songs that she's working on here. She hopes to have that out by February, March, sometime around there. We will keep posted, just keeping people up to date, getting that to the masses as we can when that's out and ready to go, and supporting her and her endeavors. We were very, very excited to sit down with her and talk to her. It was a great conversation. I'm very proud to know her, and she's a great human being. It was great to sit down and talk. So I am Andy the Pie Deal, and this is the Krooked Hearts Podcast. We are out.